keep within the time. So, okay, great. Parashah Lech Lecha. Like I said, I want to try to keep to the time to get it to 4. So here we go. Thank you so much for joining. We're back with the weekly Bezrat Hashem Zoom Parashah Shiur, Parashah synopsis, in half an hour or less. This is Parashah Lech Lecha. And just a little bit opening about the Parashah, a little bit about the Parashah, and a few important points about the Parashah. Parashah opens with Hashem commanding Avraham to pick up and leave his homeland to an undisclosed location, and Hashem will bless him with wealth, a big nation, etc. And at age 75, Avraham, his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, they leave the place of their home, they leave Haran, and Hashem directs them to Eretz Canaan, Eretz Israel. Not long later, there was a famine in Israel, and Avraham Avinu is forced to go down to Egypt for food. The Egyptians see that Sarah Imenu is beautiful and will be perfect for their pharaoh, for Paro. So they bring her to the king, but Hashem afflicts Paro. Paro realizes that this affliction was a sign from Hashem, and Paro sends them away. He upset at Avraham why he didn't tell him, but he sends them away, and Avraham Avinu and Sarah go back to Eretz Israel. They go back to the Negev, to the south of Israel. Lot also was very wealthy, had many animals, and it was too hard for them to be together, Avraham and Lot, as their shepherds would fight, etc. And Avraham Avinu says the time to separate. Lot sets his eyes on a place that's not so good for a good Jewish soul, to the place of Sodom, a very evil place. The Torah tells us the place of Sodom was a place of wicked people and a place of sinners. And at that time, in Eretz Yisrael, there were many small little nations that each had a little king, and there eventually was a war in the Yam HaMelech area, in the Dead Sea area, 5 kings versus 4 kings. The 4 kings beat the 5 kings, and part of the 5 was the area of Sodom. Lot, Avraham Avinu's nephew, who was living there, was now a prisoner of war under those 4 kings. Avraham hears about this, fights off the 4 kings, and retrieves Lot and his family. But because Avraham was at war, because he went to war, he was worried that he came close to death and still didn't have a legacy, didn't have children, and was worried about that. Hashem tells Avraham Avinu, you're going to have children like the stars of the sky. Avraham had full faith in Hashem that this will happen, but did ask one question that was viewed as a slight lack of emunah, and that is, "Bameh edaki rashena?" How do I know that I will inherit Eretz Yisrael? The promise was you're going to have a big nation and you're going to have the land of Israel. He didn't question the big nation, but he questioned Eretz Yisrael. Give me a sign that I'm going to have Israel. And Hashem says we're going to makes a covenant, a brit between himself and Avraham Avinu, brit bena betarim, the covenant between the pieces, as Hashem tells Avraham Avinu to take 3 cows, 3 goats, 3 rams, 2 birds, cut them in half and make space in between them. And after doing so, it was evening time. Avraham Avinu fell asleep and had a prophecy that his descendants will be in the land only after 400 years in a land that doesn't belong to them, which was referring to the land of Egypt. And that was kind of like a punishment for Avraham, because Avraham lacked a little bit of faith with that question, and therefore his children need to go through Egypt, get to a very low level, but then zoom up to a high level of having great faith in Moshe, great faith in Hashem. And when they do come out, they'll come out with great wealth, and that Hashem will judge the nation that oppresses us, the Egyptians, and the 4th generation will return to Eretz Yisrael, and that you, Avraham Avinu, will live a long life and be buried in Israel in tranquility. Sarah didn't have a child yet, and even though they had many converts, actually, to Avraham Avinu's way of living. Sorry, just getting up. A lot of people under their a lot of people under their wings. Yet Sarai wanted a child because there's nothing like a legacy of a child over students, and so much so that she gave her maidservant Hagar to Avraham Avinu, and they had a child Yishmael. And at this point, Avraham Avinu was 86 years old. At age 99, Hashem appears to Avraham saying that he will have great nations coming from him, and that your name is no longer going to be Avram, but rather Avraham, and that the covenant is going to be kept between Hashem and Avraham Avinu, but that you're going to need to do a Brit Milah 8 days from birth, and also all of the male servants that you have, etc. And whoever doesn't receive a Brit Milah will receive karet, which is the worst level of punishment. Hashem tells Avraham Avinu that his wife Sarai is no longer named Sarai, but rather Sarah, and then you're going to have a son with her. And Avraham says, "Isn't Ishmael the one that you promised me that everything's going to come from?" He says, "No, you're going to have a son, name him Yitzchak, and the blessings and the promises and the covenant is going to go through him." Avraham then takes himself, Ishmael, and all the male servants and gives them a Brit Milah, circumcision. Avraham was 99 years old, and Ishmael was 13 at the time of his Brit Milah. Next week's Parashah, we're going to see the birth of Yitzchak. So that is the Parashah in a few minutes. Now, one point here is that our rabbis tell us in Pirkei Avot that Avraham Avinu had 10 tests. And on the list of those 10 tests is actually Lech Lach, the test of leaving his homeland. And the question is, why is it such a test? Hashem promised him he's going to have amazing wealth. He's going to have a great nation coming from him. So, what's the issue? He's getting so much bracha. So, a way to explain this, a nice way to explain this. I actually heard this reason today, as I was on my mind when preparing the shiur. So the way the example was given was, imagine there's a great rabbi, and this great rabbi is all day and all night learning Torah. And then he gets a revelation from Hashem. I want you to switch gears, and I want your purpose to be giving out tzedakah. I'm going to make you very wealthy, and your purpose is going to be giving out tzedakah. So for the rabbi that's all day studying, it's a big difference, even though giving tzedakah is huge, but this is now a big life transformation. Like, of course, I want to do your will, Hashem, and I'm going to do it, but all day studying and now switching gears to giving tzedakah all day, it's a big transformation. And that's kind of what happened with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu had his connection with Hashem, monotheism, etc. And Hashem now tells him, I want you to leave your land. I want you to go somewhere, and I want you to be a giver. I want you to be a person of chesed, a person of kindness, and spread Hashem, spread the light of Hashem. And that is something that he wasn't doing until that point. It was something that he was kind of having a personal relationship with. So this is a totally, even though brachot were attached to it, but this is a totally lifestyle change. But Avraham Avinu, of course, passed the test. The Torah tells us that Avraham Avinu, he went with Sarah and he went with Lot, and et hanefesh asher asu becharan, and the souls that they made in Haran. As I mentioned, people until that point, they were pagans. They believed in an idol worship, and now Avraham Avinu is monotheist, believes in Hashem, and they made people. They brought people to realize that there's a God, etc. And it came a lot through food. Avraham Avinu would feed them, and then at the end of the meal, the Midrash says that Avraham Avinu would say, "Well, we have to thank the person who gave us the food." He said, "Okay." They would thank Avraham. He said, "Well, who gave me the food?" I said, "Well, I don't know. You bought it from the store. You made money again." Well, you go back. That is all from Hashem, and that's how he told the people about God. There must be a creator to this beautiful world, etc. So he made souls, so to speak. Now, the Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah says, famous Gemara, that there are 6,000 years in the world, And the Gemara says we're at year 5786. We're almost at the end. We hope that Mashiach will come in our lifetime, God willing, and very, very soon, Mishrat Hashem. The Gemara says that the first 2,000 out of the 6,000 is in the category of Tohu. Tohu is like Tohu Vavohu, mixed up. The second 2,000 is Torah, and the third 2,000, which we're in, is Yemot HaMashiach, the days of Mashiach. And the Gemara says that Avraham Avinu was 52 years old at the story of when he there's a discussion as to when Avraham Avinu discovered Hashem, so to speak, and this opinion the Gemara says is 52, and therefore, if you calculate when Avraham Avinu was born and plus 52, he was born in the year 1948, and there's a lot of connections to the state of Israel and modern day current era years. 1948 plus 52 is 2000. That means exactly Avraham Avinu was living at the 2000 mark, where the world switched from tohu, like mumbo jumbo, etc., like confusion, to now fully monotheism. Of course, we know Adam HaRishon was connected with Hashem, and Noach and Shem and certain tzaddikim. But from now on, from Avraham Avinu on, there's going to be nations and an unbroken chain in believing in Hashem, and that starts at the year 2000, where it's the start of the era of Torah. Often a person looks at Jewish history and says, I wish I was born in the time of the Bet HaMikdash. I wish I was born in the time of the splitting of the sea. I wish I was born at the time of Har Sinai and all these miracles. And, there's a time and place for everything. Avraham Avinu, he said, he lived in the year 2000, that exact transition. And there's just a little thing I want to read for you here that shows us about this, about this concept of living we're all living in the right place where Hashem wants us to be. Just a little thing here, so that I found. New York is 3 hours ahead of California. That doesn't make California slow. Someone graduated at the age of 22, but waited 5 years before searching for a good job. Someone became a CEO at 25 and died at 50, while another became a CEO at 50 and lived till age 90. Someone is still single while someone else got married. This might be an old statement. Obama retired at 55 and Trump only started at age 70. Everyone in this world works based on their own time zone. People around you might seem ahead of you. Some might seem to be behind you. But everyone is running their own race in their own time. Don't envy them or don't mock them. They are in their own time zone and you are in yours. A very important message, just looking at the timing of when Avraham Avinu lived. The Torah tells us, it's another point from our Parashah, is the Ramban says that when Avraham Avinu left Eretz Yisrael, that's the reason why the Jewish, and went to Egypt. The Jewish nation later in history followed that. Hashem said to Avraham that we're going to have to go down to Egypt. Because our leader Avraham went to Egypt, we eventually as well had to go down to Egypt. Now, the question is, why did Avraham Avinu leave Israel to go to Egypt? Hashem promised them that's going to be his land. So the answer was, okay, there was a drought and there was no food. But Avraham, you have such great level of faith. Hashem's going to take care of you. Hashem's going to bring you food even if there's a crazy drought. So Avraham Avinu left. This is an explanation by the great Rabbi Yechezkel Levinstein. Avraham Avinu left. Of course, he believed Hashem's going to take care of him, even in Israel, even in the case of a drought. But he left because he wanted to show that a person has to do the proper hishtadlut, it's a good word for hishtadlut, the proper effort, and that Hashem's going to come and kick in the rest. We can't rely on miracles. We need to do the proper effort, and believe that through the effort, still everything came from Hashem. That's proper emunah. Proper emunah isn't just, okay, I'm going to sit back, relax, Hashem's going to throw me a miracle. Hashem doesn't want us to work that way. We're physical beings. Live in the physical world. Do the physical effort you need to do, but then attribute everything to Hashem. And don't attribute it to yourself. Don't attribute it to your effort. That's emunah. Recognizing that it's all from Hashem, even though I put in the effort. A person goes to the doctor heals him. And we have to say, Baruch Hashem. So, of course, thank you to the doctor, but also we have to say, Baruch Hashem. What do you mean? Hashem had nothing to do with it. It was just the doctor. No. I do the proper hishtadlut, I do the proper efforts, but it all comes from Hashem. Now, we know in our Amidah, every day, we say, Baruch Hashem, Magen Avraham. That Hashem, we thank Hashem and we bless Hashem, and we say that Avraham Avinu is like the shield of Avraham. Why don't we start though Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov? So why don't we finish Magen Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? Why only Magen Avraham, the shield of Avraham? So we know that Avraham Avinu embodied the pillar of Chesed. The world stands on three pillars, as it says in Pirkei Avot: Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim. Torah, Avodah, which is the service in the Beit HaMikdash, which is Tefillah, which is prayer, and Chesed, and kindness. Avraham Avinu embodied and mainly was connected to Chesed. And when our Chachamim made the Tefillot, and they instituted us saying Magen Avraham, that was because there has to be a connection to Chesed. And therefore, of course, Avraham Avinu taught Torah to the masses, brought Hashem to the masses, and that is Torah. Of course, all the three Avot are connected to Torah, but also yet what's called Torah and Chesed b'makom echad. Torah and Chesed together in one place, and therefore we say Magen Avraham for this reason. We need the two, Torah and Chesed, in one place. I was reminded of a story when thinking about Chesed, and said, okay, let me think of a story, Chesed. The following story came to my mind, and the story is actually about my good friend Rabbi Zrihan's mother, Alea Shalom. And the story goes that a shidduch was presented, a match was presented to Rabbi Zrihan's sister, and the match was that this boy was from a wealthy family, and Rabbi Zrihan knew the boy. They studied together, and he knew him. He was his friend, and he thought of the idea for my sister, and the mother was absolutely against it. No, I don't want him for my daughter. No. And they couldn't understand. He has like so many good qualities. What's the issue? Why can't they date? Why can't of course it was a shidduch, they didn't date yet. But why don't you want to present it? And she answered something unbelievable. She said, look, it's Rabbi Zrihan's mother. She said, my older daughter, married a boy of simple means. And now her sister, right below her, is going to marry a rich kid. There might be jealousy among the sisters. And that's something I don't want. And therefore, there'll be another one that's coming on the way. But I don't want there to be jealousy between the sisters. So this is an unbelievable foresight. And this is a chesed that she did to her daughter and her daughters for not having jealousy of one another, and a foresight. And this is to embody chesed, to think about people's feelings, to think about how to act toward them. And this is something, of course, that we learn from Avraham Avinu. And the pasuk says in our Parashah, Ve'yeh beracha. Avraham Avinu became bracha. He became bracha, meaning when a person is a person of chesed, a person of Torah, you could somewhat like become a piece of bracha. You become bracha yourself. Of course, you offer bracha to others. You become a piece of bracha, so to speak. And that's something, of course, we want to emulate. So thank you for joining today. Sorry that we started a little bit late. I hope I didn't lose anyone. But thank you again, and Bezrat Hashem next week, and Bezrat Hashem for Shabbat to learn a little bit more about our amazing parasha this week, Parashah Lech Lach. Chazak u'baruch. Thank you again,
Thank you, Rabbi.
and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Baruch.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All the best.